I'm just trying to decide if I'm comfortable even talking about that.
This one's wife, the Duchess of Touching. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. India McTaggart writes in the Telegraph, Duchess of Sussex was surprisingly tactile, says royal photographer. Award-winning snapper Samir Hussain, who captured world-famous picture of Sussex's in the rain, describes her behaviour as unusual. Now, we all know that this one's wife touches a lot. After all, I'm a hugger, she proclaims. Her narcissism causes her to believe that her tactile approach is demonstrative of the fact that she cares. We all know that because she's a narcissist and she needs to control people that she deals with, when she touches them, that is just the physical assertion of control. She's renowned for the grip of doom, which is utilised to control Harry. That she utilises that also in the way that she touches the small of his back, that she physically moves him out of the way in order to speak to people ahead of him, that she gets in the way of a handshake by hugging people, that she hugs people without invitation, sense of entitlement, lack of boundary recognition, that she touches people time and time again. She thinks that she's doing nothing wrong, but she doesn't realise that such a tactile approach might not actually be welcomed by certain people. And, of course, because we know she's a narcissist, we also know that she's doing it to control people and draw fuel from them. So it's not a surprise that she is as tactile as she is. Certain narcissists are, often the somatic variety. They will regularly touch people on the shoulder, on the arm, take their hand, perhaps even touch their face, often doing so when it would generally be deemed inappropriate. That they do so early on in their interactions with that person, perhaps in the course of a first meeting, where you might save such tactile involvement until you get to know that person better. Established conventions would say that. Of course, there are others that would say, oh, that's just the response of people being stuffy. But generally speaking, when you first meet somebody, you don't start pawing them. But this one's wife does, because her narcissism directs her to do so for two reasons. One, to control them by utilising physical touch, and also to manage her facade, which is, see, I'm a hugger, I'm really nice, look at me world, as I'm being nice to somebody, thus attempting to control the onlookers. The article explains the Duchess of Sussex was noticeably more tactile than the rest of the royals when she joined the family, a royal photographer has revealed. Samir Hussain, an award-winning photographer who captured the now world-famous picture of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex leaning into each other under an umbrella in 2020 that went viral, described it as unusual. He told the Telegraph it was very noticeable when this one's wife came on the scene just how tactile she was, like holding the Duke's hand and being arm in arm, so that was quite unusual. Now, of course, this photographer has picked up upon this tactile aspect of this one's wife, but he doesn't know the reason for it. The Duchess, 42, and the Duke, 39, are known for their displays of affection and hand-holding when out, marking a breakaway from the usual formality seen in royal relationships, or, put another way, other people don't behave like a pair of teenagers. Mr. Hussain's image of the couple looking at one another in the rain, taken at one of their final engagements before they stepped down as senior royals, will now go on display in London in a new exhibition charting his family's photography of their monarchy over the years. The exhibition, titled Princess Diana, Accredited Access, will open at St. Catherine Docks, London on May 25th, after successful runs in the United States, Australia and Canada. It is a collection of images taken by the longest-serving royal photographer, and Mr. Hussain's father, Anwar Hussain, as well as those from his and his brother Zach's collection. The family passion for photographing the royals spans 7 decades, during which time the trio have created a collection of official pictures of 5 generations of the monarchy. It then goes on to talk about the pictures that were taken of Diana and what all of that means, and talking about now We're photographing her children now in terms of Harry and William. Sam Hussein recalled days where they would accompany his father, now 86, to the polo, where he would be photographing the then Prince Charles playing while Princess Diana watched. It was very relaxed, he said. We would play around and William and Harry would be playing there as well, so we were kind of exposed to all of that from a young age. Zach added that their similar ages to the princes meant they could relate to them in a different way. The brothers told the Telegraph that they aim to continue their father's style of photographing the royal family in a more candid manner, catching them in moments between formality, rather than always posing for the lens. Thus, this photographer picked up on the fact that she's tactile, and this is reported on, but of course they don't understand the reason why she is tactile, why she behaves in this fashion, that it's done to physically control other people, and of course she's always aware of when she's being filmed or photographed because she instinctively seeks out the camera, so that her facade management kicks in, so that it shows her as apparently this non-stuffy, kind and caring individual, but it is just simply a facade because she doesn't care, because she has no emotional empathy. Thus, this photographer noticed that she was overly tactile, but wasn't aware of the reason for it, and that's again why my work is so important in enabling you to understand the behaviours of the narcissist and unlocking the mysteries of people's behaviour. But what about below the line? Do other people recognise why she's so tactile? Mind Boggles writes, "She's a creep and you're gullible." E. Hatfield, "Really, it shows how hard they work to make her welcome. If the worst she can come up with is that a stranger wasn't keen on being hugged by her at a first meeting, and that Catherine didn't want to share her lip gloss, which I gather nobody over about 9 would do anyway, I feel very sorry for the family. They must have seen she was going to be trouble, but not on the scale she was." Millie Fawcett, "This one's wife is acting. She's playing a role for the cameras. She knows where they are. She knows how to give them a good shot, most of the time. The hand-holding, steering, clinging thing is very bothersome, but it's probably meant to convey that she and her balding, petulant, middle-aged swain are part of a written-in-the-stars love story, always destined to happen. It comes across as ownership, indeed, or perhaps the management of someone a little bit lacking in the brains department. The date with Destiny malarkey is something she has sold to Harry, and he swallowed it hook, line and sinker. I almost feel sorry for him when I think how it will end, very badly, with him being taken for every penny he has and little access to his children, who, putting everything else unlikable about him aside, he obviously adores." S.J. Guy, "I don't like all of this anti-this one's wife stuff, but it is her own fault. She could have been such a success and such an asset to the royal family. Being black, or person of colour as we're now supposed to say, she appealed to the young, to the people who thought it a bit old-fashioned to be supportive of the royals. Having a showbiz career meant that she was already part-trained in the art of public presentation, and all the hard work that goes into the background of those few minutes on stage. Being American, she had a ready-made excuse for any mistakes she might make. Instead, she seems to have treated her position as just one more step in a showbiz career, enthusiastically stoking a rivalry between her and the then Duchess of Cambridge prior to her exit to what she hoped would be a career as an ultra-celebrity in the US. Sad to see her take that route. Her very determination, strong-mindedness could have been such an advantage to her if she'd just taken a few years off to quietly build her family and her position in the public mind. Well, many of those attributes, of course, arise from her narcissism, as you well know. Andy Rushton, first thing I thought when I saw that rain photo is how different things could have been if they hadn't had such an attitude problem. I wonder if they'll ever grow up enough to realise. Well, it's nothing to do with growing up. It's all to do with her narcissism, which will never change. Malcolm Ross, this woman is insecure, low-grade. She'll cling to anyone that does not actively recoil from her. Jim Webb, this one's wife is tactile. So is a snake. Susan Hucker, I thought she was more clingy, especially with Harry. She's always holding on to him, almost like being attached at the hip. E. Hatfield, part of that was because she wore stilettos, which were too big for her, but part was he's mine, see how clever I am. Well, it was to denote ownership, but also the clinging was all part of controlling him as well. Darren Lloyd's, ZZZZZZZ, Bunky Fazell, yeah, boring. Kate Smith, of course she was. So desperate for a photo op, she ignored the protocols that are in place to keep royal members safe. She's very used to touching things, as her background shows after all. If she thought this was modernising the monarchy, although other than being tokenistic, which let's be honest hasn't gone down well at all, no one has actually explained what she was trying to modernise, monetise maybe, she was sorely mistaken. She showed herself to be ignorant and foolish with this infantile behaviour. Alison Purser, there's a time and place. The Duchess has been very inappropriate in her hugging and touching. She does not seek permission of potential recipients. Sense of entitlement, lack of emotional empathy, lack of boundary recognition. There are many examples of this, both pre and post her marriage. Well, although many people do recognise her behaviour to be inappropriate, they of course don't recognise that it's driven by her narcissism. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.